Hey everyone, welcome to Cooking with Calvin. We're going to be doing an episode from home amid this virus. During the virus, obviously we want to clean our hands more and sanitize surfaces more, but that shouldn't be any different from what we're doing in the kitchen normally. So we take same precautions that we always take in the kitchen. That being said, today what we're going to be doing is making potatoes dauphinoise. Now that is a French potato that is very similar to potatoes au gratin. The only difference between them is really you're cooking the potatoes in au gratin before you slice them. Potatoes dauphinoise, you are just slicing raw and allowing it to slow cook in the cream mixture as you make it. So here we are, list of ingredients right over here. Everything you need to accomplish this right at home. So I went with red potatoes. You can get any type of potato you want really. The important part is that the starch in the potato, that's going to be the thickener for our sauce. I chose to keep the skin-ons. That's just personal preference. I like to see the difference between the two potatoes. I like to see where one ends and the other begins. But again, up to preference. Peel them beforehand, whatever you want to do. You're going to need loads of butter, as with every French dish ever. We have mozzarella cheese, Parmesan cheese, garlic over here, kosher salt, rosemary. The eggs are going to be for the cauliflower, and then we have sliced potatoes. Now the cauliflower is an extra addition for this, just in case you have somebody in your life that has an allergy or can't eat potatoes. This is a good alternative. Also, if you're trying to avoid starch or you're trying to avoid those heavy carbs, go with the cauliflower instead. But cauliflower doesn't have the starch to it like potato would, so you need a thickener for the sauce. That's where the eggs come in. Now our final ingredient for this is going to be milk. You can use heavy cream, you can use milk, whichever your preference is. What we want to do right now, you can see the steam coming off. I've had it come up to room temperature. And so we want this to be going as we're making all of our other prep, because we need this to start getting up to a temperature where we can start steeping it and reducing it. Now you don't want to reduce it too much, as it will reduce in the oven with the potatoes, but you want to get it reduced just a little bit. I would say maybe about 5% total reduction. So this is going to be the process. You can obviously see that I've been getting ahead of myself over here, but I want to show the process in case you don't have a mandolin at home or anything. Just be very careful, you have a sharp knife, but we're going to practice safety here. So take just a little bit off the edge of the potato, and now you have a flat surface to work on. Now, it's important to get nice thin slices, but the more important thing is that everybody getting sliced is the same size. You want the same thickness all throughout. If you don't have that, some of the potatoes are going to be cooked, others are not going to be cooked all the way, and that's where you can start to see the breakdown of the recipe. So once again, cut off the end of it. Now you have that flat surface to work on. Always bending in your fingers. We're going down. So as we're doing all this, we talked before about steeping the milk. The rosemary is going to be one of our aromatics for this. Traditional dauphinoise is Gruyere cheese, milk, butter, and potatoes. That's about it. So we like to add a little bit of extra flair whenever we have the chance. So get the whole rosemary into there. You're not going to eat that rosemary. We're going to strain that rosemary out afterwards. But for right now, we just want the aromatics and the flavor of the rosemary to get incorporated with this cream. Now, as you have that steeping away, this is also what our garlic is for. So we want to infuse the garlic, the rosemary, right into the cream. As we're doing that, come over here. Now this is not going to be a long process for that cream to absorb all that flavor. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. End pieces we're just thrown off to the side. And now we can start layering. So when you're doing this, you want a nice buttered pan here. So the reason for that is, first, for not sticking to it. The second is that we want that butter flavor to be incorporated top, bottom, everywhere that we can get. So by layering and getting all of that butter on the bottom, you're ensuring that we're gonna have butter flavor all throughout. So what we do here is we're gonna get our potatoes, and this is gonna be the biggest part of the process, is having the patience to layer and fan all of this out. Because initially you're just gonna wanna take this bowl, throw it all into there, let it all pile up. And that's my initial jerk reaction as well. But we're gonna follow protocol here because the end product is going to be so much better. So what we're doing is, so we start and we shingle it out. Now we wanna get everything out of the water in here. If you're gonna cut the potatoes ahead of time, you're gonna wanna keep it in water, in some sort of liquid. That's just because you wanna eliminate the process of oxidation. So anytime that air touches the inside of a potato, it will oxidize. You get this nasty gray color to it, and then nobody eats your casserole and everyone laughs at you. So from here, we're just layering it down. And now we want to get a little pinch of salt into there. You don't want to go crazy with the salt because we're going to be putting a little bit in every layer. Also, we're adding Parmesan cheese at this point, which has a little bit of saltiness to it as well. So if you over salt, you get the Parmesan into there, then you're going to have a nice salty potato dauphinoise. Washing our hands wherever we can. Now you can start the next layer. You just keep shingling it out, shingling it out. Now you don't want to put the same things into every layer besides potatoes, because you need the potatoes in every layer. But you don't want to put salt and Parmesan cheese in every layer. We want to get our mozzarella incorporated in that where we can. So just like a lasagna, you want to layer, you want to make different layers. All right. And we can just take our sliced low moisture mozzarella. Most of the time you would want to go with a low moisture one just because you don't want to create more moisture. If you wanted to do fresh mozzarella, I'm not saying that it wouldn't turn out the same way, but you'd be creating more moisture in the sauce, and you can not guarantee that the starch will thicken it up the same way that you'd like if you had just used low moisture or dried cheese or pasteurized or something along that. Now, everything is interchangeable in this. So we have red potatoes, we can go Yukon. We have low moisture mozzarella, we can put cheddar cheese. We have Parmesan. You know, any of these things can be switched out. You have, I have milk just because I have milk in my fridge. You have heavy cream in your fridge. You can use whichever you'd like. That's the beauty of cooking, really. So as we're layering, just want to push down wherever we can. Come down with the Parmesan cheese. Come down with a little bit more Parmesan cheese than what we expected, but that's all right. Now you don't even have to put the salt on the same layer that you're putting the Parmesan cheese on. Yeah, you can put that in any layer, you can put it on a layer on its own. So what we want to do right about now, we have one more layer that we can fit on. So in your head, you should be spacing out, okay, well, now I can put the last layer, you have to put mozzarella. That's going to be what's browning on top. And then, you could also use the rest of your Parmesan if you wanted. Now we just continually layer and watch and make sure that our milk is not overflowing. Usually by the time you hear the milk overflowing, it's too late. And it is already gone, so no need to panic, just turn it off. Push it down where we can. And now, so this will be the final layer. We don't want to go too much more than that. As it cooks down, it's going to go down a little bit more, but you want enough space in here where I can still add the cream and it won't overflow. A little bit of Parmesan cheese right on top. And then we want to do a couple tablespoons of butter right on top. Just put it right in the center. Now that's where you're going to start pouring your heavy cream on top. So the butter will melt. So now we come over to here. And now you don't want to put all of the cream in there. Just throw it all in. What you want to do is you want to take, if you have a Nessie at home, take a little Nessie. And we're going right on top of the butter. So now the butter is getting incorporated without being cooked into the sauce. You want to be very careful because all that cream you want to get into here, not to overflow on the sides. And as I'm doing this, so you can strain the rosemary out before you start doing this, or you can just leave it in there and kind of push it down with a ladle so that you only get the cream and you're not getting that rosemary to come out. Now this is going to fill in every crevice that's in there. It's going to go in between every potato. That's why it was very important for us to create those layers, because now you have something that's structurally stable. All right, that should be right to where we want it to be. And now, so we're doing this ahead of time. We have dinner later on tonight. So this is something that we can prepare ahead of time, because now we want to take this, want to put it into the fridge, want to get it cooled down. We want everything to be nice and cool before we throw it into the oven. So now we're going to set this to the side. And now what we want to do, so now we have our egg mixture here. Now, if we added the eggs straight to the cream mixture, the eggs would cook. So what we want to do is a process called tempering. That's where we take the hot cream, drop that. Then we want to add little by little. So you add a little bit of cream. The process of tempering is bringing something up to the temperature that you want it to be. So we're slowly incorporating cream, and that's going to bring up the temperature of the eggs safely so that we're not just making scrambled eggs and adding it to the cauliflower. So we just add a little bit, start stirring it up. Add a little bit more. Now the egg is also dropping down the temperature of the cream. So you're gonna come down to this medium temperature where it's not exactly boiling like the cream was, but it's not exactly cold like the eggs were. Now you have to have patience for this as well. This is a very slow process, and if you mess this up, then you get cooked eggs, and everybody will know exactly why. So now that we have that incorporated, gonna go with the same, where this is gonna be cheese right on top. Actually, we're doing a very small batch because some of us in this household do not like cauliflower. So we're adding it right on top. And then our reserved Parmesan cheese, I'm gonna get right on top of there. So now we let this set, and then we'll start the cooking process. So the cooking process, you wanna have your oven 300 degrees. It's gonna be for a whole hour that these potatoes are cooking. And then the last 5 minutes, you wanna turn it up to 400 and just do 5 minutes. 5 minutes are just to brown the top. So if you peek in and all of a sudden, you know, it's at the brownness that you want, take it out. Even if it's 2 minutes, if it's at 7 minutes, you're just browning the top on that. Everything should be cooked on the inside. You want the potatoes to be nice and tender, and you want to be slightly thickened up. All right, everyone, so here we are again. We had the potatoes cooking, had the cauliflower cooking, 300 degrees. Potatoes took a little bit longer than expected, so we got an hour, 15 minutes. Ideally, what you're looking for, maybe you did a couple less layers, maybe you did a couple more. So adjust the time. You just want the potatoes to be tender and everything to thicken up. So now we can see on this, fresh out of the oven, everything, it has gelatinous texture to it. So that lets you know starch is combined with the cream, everything is kind of congealed together, and so everything is a-okay with this. We put the rosemary on top, just as garnish really. It'll put some more aromatics into it. It'll smell nice while you're cooking it, but that's really the only effects that it has. Over here, obviously there was less cauliflower than the potatoes. So this you're gonna cook for, I think it took us about 30 minutes. But again, you want cauliflower to be nice and tender to the touch. And so once everything's all tender, crank the oven up 400. And that's just to brown the surface. So that gets those nice effects that you have over here, where the cream on top and the cheese on top have actually gotten a little bit brown. You're gonna get a contrast of textures with that. So now you have something that's crispy. You have all the potatoes that are cooked all the way through, nice and tender. You have the cream. So all these textures are coming together now to create a better mouthfeel. So that's it for me. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you'll try it out at home. Feel free, send me whatever you got. Thanks.